Hello, this is Sherry with LifePlan, and I am here with Debbie and Lisa, two of my coworkers at LifePlan. And we're going to talk today about what we do at LifePlan and their roles at LifePlan. So let's start first of all with Lisa. You've been at LifePlan the longest. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm married and I have 3 grown sons. I've been at LifePlan about 15 or 16 years. I volunteered first and then came on staff about 10 years ago. Do you want hobbies and stuff like that?
Sure, tell us your hobbies. What do you like to do?
I love to go to the beach. That's probably my favorite hobby. My hubby and I love to do that. So we also like to ride motorcycles. So we like the warm weather. The warm weather's definitely the preference, but not a lot to tell. A lot of the me is wrapped up in work and family and but I love all of it. So
sure, absolutely. And what about you, Debbie? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. I am married to Brian. We moved here 27 years ago. My husband transferred here with Whirlpool. I'm originally from Fort Wayne, Indiana. We have 2 daughters. Allison lives locally, and she's our oldest daughter, and Abby lives in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. We thought we were only going to be here 2 or 3 years, and now it's been 27. So,
wow.
Yeah, so this is home. We loved raising our family here, and we actually homeschooled our girls all the way through. So I absolutely love that, and I actually kind of miss it. But anyway, LifePlan has been a great transition for me, just to have the opportunity to, because I had daughters, gives me the opportunity to speak into other young women's lives.
Sure. Debbie, talk to us about your transition to LifePlan. So
yeah,
you came on as a volunteer, correct?
Yes, it's a God story. About 4 years, well, so first of all, I was familiar with LifePlan I got to go to a banquet many, many years ago at the last minute with a friend. She invited me. And then so many years later, my oldest daughter loves childbirth. That's what she works in, that area. And she wanted the opportunity to work with moms and babies. And so I suggested she look into at that time, Niles Pregnancy Care Center. And so she started volunteering there. She did that for a couple of years. And through her, I went to some of the banquets and some of the other fundraising events. And so I met some of you guys over that time period. And then 4 years ago, I had a niece who was estranged from her family. And so I was praying fervently for her every day. And often I would just pray that God would just bring a godly woman into her life and would just love on her, would look beyond the outward appearance and just point her to Jesus and point her back to her family. And one day I was praying for her, and the thought occurred to me, I wonder if the Lord has some young woman for me that he would have me to speak into her life and encourage her. And so I just thought about that and went on. Well, then I bet it was only 1 or 2 weeks later, I got a call from Lisa, and she said, Debbie, God's kind of put you on my heart as that to ask you if you would consider volunteering here. And I think part of the reason I didn't even do it earlier was that it's 35 minutes away from home for me. So it's quite the hike. And, but anyway, as I prayed about it and thought about it, I thought, I think this is the Lord speaking. And so I came down to Niles. I went through training and started volunteering, and absolutely loved it. It was a great fit. And so I volunteered for almost 3 years before I moved into this position.
Yeah, that's kind of a story of a lot of people starting out as a volunteer and then moving on staff. Lisa, that's your story too, right? You were a volunteer. Can you talk to us a little bit about your journey to LifePlan?
Yeah, I started because I'd always had a heart for the pro-life industry and mission, and there was just a sermon that my pastor gave, and it was like, okay, that's it, that's the moment. I know God is calling me to that. And so I immediately got an interview, and just feels like so long ago though at this point, but yeah, I loved it. I volunteered, just loved the volunteering. And then what happened for me is there was some transition in the leadership, and I just remember my very simple prayer was, God, if I ever had a job, I would want it to be that. And so I was absolutely thrilled. I don't have a college education, all this is on the job learning. And so it was just beautiful that God gave me the opportunity to do that. And as we have transition leadership again. And Lyndon is our director now, and he's just developing all of us in our leadership skills and talents and giftings. And so that's been really cool too, just to see where we all fit. And Debs, I'm so glad you mentioned your story, because my part of your story is just talking to Allison, and it was really so specific to me. Like I could see your face. I could see your face here. And so it was
Really?
really, really cool to me to hear your side of that. I just remember that I felt like God was calling me to call you. So that was
Wow.
just a neat experience. And when we look back now, that just makes so much sense why God put those pieces in place and why he was so specific to
Mm.
call us the way that he did. And that's just super fun to see that, I think.
It is so neat to hear those stories and just to be reminded that God can use anyone and
Mhm.
equip anyone, and then to see how the stories mesh together. And so, Deb, you came on as a volunteer, and you volunteered for 2 years or 3 years?
Almost 3.
Almost
Not
3
quite
years.
3. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then let's fast forward, and then we're talking about opening up a location in Benton Harbor. You mentioned that you were 35 minutes away from Niles, and you were still
Mhm.
coming, which is amazing and fabulous. And you were wonderful. We loved having you here. But what happened when we opened up Benton Harbor? Talk about that transition of moving from Niles to Benton Harbor.
Yeah. So that also is kind of interesting. Actually, well, so first of all, Lyndon had been talking, you guys had been talking about that for a while. Like that was his hope, his dream. He saw a real need here. In the back of my mind, I thought, wow, that would be kind of nice to move up here, just because now it's only about 18 minutes from home. And although I was kind of sad because I loved all the relationships I developed down in Niles, but then as it was getting closer and it looked like it was going to come to fruition for sure, Lyndon and Lisa approached me and asked me if I would consider perhaps coming on board and overseeing the Benton Harbor site. And actually at that time I had started thinking like I needed something else a little bit more like a part-time job or something, just to keep me a little bit more busier. And so that was just kind of a really, really good fit then. It was something I love to do, and it's closer to home, and I get a little job out of it. So, but it's not about the money. It's just a great place to work.
Just so everybody knows, Deb is talking to us from the Benton Harbor location. So you can see the boutique behind her, and Lisa is at the Niles location. And I'm at home, my home. But yeah, so talk a little bit about the whole transition to Benton Harbor from your perspective, Lisa. What was that like? Because you kind of lost Deb as a volunteer,
Right,
as
right,
a coworker. So
right.
And I took some people with me here,
Right.
remember?
Right. Yeah, I became so grateful for Debs because a lot of the current staff here in Niles were doing a lot, and so I'm so grateful for Debs because I can't do it all, and nobody can. And we have lots of volunteers, so it's not like I was overloaded or anything, but just to be able to give that piece to Debs. And it's been, oh sorry, I call her Debs.
That's okay.
Nickname for her is Debs, but just to hand that piece over to her and just to have that confidence in her, like she said, Lyndon and I were already thinking of her, and we approached her because we knew and saw the capabilities in her. So just to turn that over has been really cool. And I always tease her too because she's so good at what she does that she often makes me look really bad because her details are so in place, and I absolutely love that. And it's cool to me because Deb's moved to Benton Harbor and she had to lose some of her relationships, but I get to retain that with her. So that to me has been just a blessing to just watch her grow and thrive, and just to still have that connection with her. And she asks questions, but she really knows what to do. So it's been a blessing, a huge blessing to have Debs there in Benton Harbor.
So talk about your roles, what you guys do in Benton Harbor and in Niles. So you're both involved in client services. So what does that look like? What does client services look like in Niles? We'll start with Lisa this time.
It's so weird because now everything's so different. It's hard to almost remember what it used to be like. But for client services here in Niles, I am in charge of the volunteers and everything related to clients. So like their curriculum, the boutique, and making sure the volunteers are trained properly, and once they come in that they know what they're doing and have all their pieces in place. Yeah, your turn, Debs.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, it's just kind of overseeing the operation here, just making sure the as you said, the volunteers are here, kind of dealing with the schedule all the time. There seems like there's always changes that happening. Just staying on top of the clients and yeah, right now it's I would say, I think we talked about this last week, Lisa, it's kind of a really challenging time right now because we're overseeing this supply giveaway and trying to be prepared for that, make sure we have the supplies and then have people here to help us to give them out. But then in the same token, we have some of our volunteers are doing virtual Life Matters program. So now we need to keep track of them, like, okay, who has clients, who don't, did they see their client last week or didn't they? Because we have to keep all those records because we keep statistics on how many clients we're seeing and how much they're earning even while they're away. So that gets kind of challenging.
Yeah.
It's a big job. Lisa was on vacation a while ago, and Darcy and I were trying to do her job, and it was hard for the two of us. So just,
Yeah,
you guys are doing a lot. Thank you. What are some of the challenges that our clients are facing right now? Whoever wants to jump in.
Well, I think initially a lot of things weren't even in the stores, so they weren't able to find the things that they needed. And I was thinking about this getting ready today, just that we had that stuff, the truck, and we had stuff downstairs, you know, even if it wasn't in the stores, we had a lot of that stuff. So we were able to do that. And a lot of people are, you know, without work, less financing. And I was also thinking about this today, is that the weather's changing, and so now they're needing summer clothes. So we're doing that quite a bit too. I don't know if you're doing
yeah, I was actually going to comment on that. That was one of the biggest surprises for me, is that people need clothes. And I was thinking about the fact that a lot of these resale stores, like for those who have limited income, the resale stores were closed. People can't do garage sales. So they were really limited. So I was surprised of that need.
Yeah, that's a really good point. You wouldn't think about that. You would think of the diapers and the formula, but people need the clothes, and especially with the seasons changing, like you mentioned, Lisa, you know, they don't know, they're not able to necessarily get that. So that's definitely a need.
And sometimes, you know, babies, they go through growth spurts and all of a sudden they're out of what they had and they need more things.
Yeah.
Well, and
the other thing I found interesting, I didn't know all the specifics of it, but I do remember some clients saying, like, when everything shut down initially, like they couldn't get to WIC or they couldn't get their card loaded or whatever, and so a lot of them needed formula, which before we've always had formula, but very few people asked for it. But when this all happened, everybody was asking for formula. And I think that was part of it right there.
Yeah.
Are you going to add something to that, Lisa?
I forgot.
That's okay, no problem. All right, so let's switch to volunteering. You guys are both in charge of managing the volunteers, and we are a very largely volunteer-run organization. So talk a bit about the different volunteers that we have, the different volunteers we need at LifePlan to make LifePlan work. Debbie, go ahead, you start.
Okay. So we need receptionists. I'm going to be needing some more receptionists. I have a couple people who are going to be leaving, so we have that. And I will say most of our volunteer positions, usually we need them for 4-hour slots. If there's some overlap, I need to talk to you about this, Lisa, but we may, you know, lessen it a little bit on one end or the other, but we like to have a receptionist at each shift, our 4-hour shifts. And basically that person just greeting the clients as they come in, answering the telephone. I have some of my receptionists are entering information into the computer system for us, records and those sorts of things. And so that's their job. And then we have the consultants who they go through a training to learn how to work with our clients, and they usually are scheduled to, they could see at least, or at the most, 3 clients per their volunteer shift. And so they're there just to meet with the clients and encourage them. We have a great, I hope I'm not getting ahead of myself, but we have this great curriculum that we just started using. I think it was the end of last fall, is that right? called Bright Course. It's we stream it in via the internet, and it is so good. And so a consultant would go through one of these videos on whether it's parenting, relationships, prenatal, and all sorts of things. And then they meet with that client, talk about it, and then just plan for the next week. So does that answer your question?
That's great. Thank you, Deb. Lisa, what are the requirements of a volunteer? What kind of things do you look for when you're looking to recruit volunteers like Debbie?
Well, definitely a love for God and people, you know, that's a given. The other thing I was going to say about volunteers too, though, is like we love to use whatever talents and giftings they have. Like we can use people for events, we can use organizational style volunteers. Like we had a girl come in today working in our boutique, and she was just organizing that. I mean, we've had handymen before, we've had people working out in the yard, just whatever kinds of talents and giftings you have, we love to put that to use. And so yeah, the qualifications are that you don't mind hanging out with people, because once you come in, you're gonna be kind of like family to us. So we're gonna bring you in, and we're gonna really love and care about you as you care about our clients. As Debbie mentioned, there's the training, so we do a lot of the equipping. We just really need willing hearts and people that love people. I don't mean to oversimplify it, but even the Bright Course that Debbie was mentioning, we try to keep that so that it works well for our volunteers to use that too. And, you know, we try to just train people and get them in places where they really feel passionate. That's probably the biggest thing. Like I tried to put a person in as a consultant, and she just ended up in our boutique, and she loved it. She was in there all by herself, singing to herself and just absolutely loving it. So we have to put people where they really can thrive and be passionate about serving God. So I don't know that answers your question, but that's how it works, I guess.
Well, it goes right back to what you said earlier, just that God can use anybody with any gifting for his service. And we'd love to have people using their gifts for him at LifePlan. We can definitely use them there. So that's great. What would you guys say? Go ahead, Deb.
Oh, I was just going to say a couple other things. Look, one of our volunteers, Katie, she has this awesome gift of decorating, and she's the one that decorated Benton Harbor, and she just did an amazing job. And so that's not my gift by any means. And so that was just so cool to have her. And I was going to say, I've also had a couple college girls this summer coming with one of the moms to help give out supplies, and they absolutely love it. And one of them the other day was asking, I would like to really continue doing this, you know. So they're just doing special projects, but that's just been fun to have them here. And I think it's neat for them to get that experience of what we do here, you know, and they're in just to know about our type of organization.
That's great. That's wonderful. What would you guys say to somebody who's watching this, who's thinking, maybe I should think about volunteering here, but I'm not quite so sure. So what would you say to them? Deb, what would you say?
I think you can always just come in and just try it. You know, it never hurts to try. And I think you'll get a fit. Just like Lisa said, that one woman, she plugged her in as a consultant, and then that just wasn't the right fit. But you just never know what might come out of it. You might find another area that you like to serve in. But I don't know if that's what you're looking for.
That's perfect. That's great. Lisa, what about you? What would you tell someone who's thinking about volunteering?
Yeah, absolutely the same. Just talk to us, meet us. And I was thinking too, like a lot of times, you know, you might know of LifePlan, but if you haven't talked to us or, you know, come in, or you don't get as much of a feel. Once you can really talk to us and see what we do, you know, I know people can't come in now, but as soon as people can come in, they should come visit us, because you just can get a really good feel for who we are, how we operate, and we're very welcoming. If you want to serve Jesus, then we want to plug you in. So
absolutely. Very good. One last question for both of you guys. So share with me, if you can, a story of impact from your time serving, maybe a client story or even a volunteer story, just something that has happened that is where LifePlan has impacted somebody's life. Whoever wants to go first.
I have a story. I just think this is really cool. This is when we started doing this virtual Life Matters program, you know, our curriculum virtually. We had this young woman who came, I forget exactly when she even came, like earlier this winter. She was a single mom. She was expecting twins, and she was really excited to participate. And she only came a couple times, and then we never heard anything from her. We tried to contact her, and I don't even know really what happened. But anyway, when all this started, one of the things I did is I kind of went back to some of our old records to just check on some of our previous clients to say, hey, do you have any needs? How are you guys doing? And so I kept trying to call her, and I kept getting a busy signal. And one day I just thought, you know what? I'm just going to text her. I don't know why I never thought of it. So I texted her, and immediately after I texted her, she calls me back, and she goes, I got your text. And she goes, and I told her how I'd been trying to call her, and she said, well, I changed my phone number. And I was thinking about that. I don't know how my text went through, but I think it has to be a God thing, but it went through to her. She got the text, she called me right back. And it turned out she was calling me from the hospital in Kalamazoo. She had just had twins the day before.
Wow.
She takes the time to call me, which surprised me. She had preemies. Anyway, so I was just checking on her. I was telling her what we were doing because of the COVID thing. And she got all excited, and she said, you know, I'm going to have a lot of a lot of time on my hands that sitting here at the hospital with these babies, I'd love to participate. So she's been doing the babies. She just came home a couple weeks ago with the babies, but her consultant who she had started with, they were meeting weekly over the phone. We would text her her videos, and then they would talk about them once a week. And she was so excited to be able to prepare to be a mom while she had that time while she's sitting at the hospital. So I just think that's so cool that we were able to serve her way over in Kalamazoo.
Mm-hmm.
And she's looking forward to coming back in when she can.
Love it. That's a great story.
Mm-hmm.
Great story. What about you, Lisa? Do you have one?
Oh, I'm trying to think. I mean, I have several, so it makes it challenging. I guess one of the most recent ones was I talked to a girl who's been using our virtual services too, and she told me when she called, she said, yeah, I've been meaning to call you. I need to tell Lisa that I had the baby. You know, it's just that they know that we care about them, and they know that we're waiting to hear from them, and that we get so excited when they have milestones like that in their lives. And that's probably, yeah, one of the most recent ones.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you guys for talking with us today and sharing your Heart for Life plan. And thank you everybody for watching. If you want to find out more about LifePlan, you can visit our website at lifeplan.org, or you can call if you are interested in volunteering, especially at Niles or Benton Harbor. The Niles number is
269-684-6200.
And the Benton Harbor number?
I had to grab my thing to remember.
That's why I'm pointing at you, because I don't have that one memorized.
I still don't either. 269-757-7342.
And those are both on our website too. So if you look there, you'll be able to connect with us. So we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to have you part of LifePlan. Thank you so much and have a great day.